Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a quick review of the Morgan Plus 4 next to me. Although it looks like Morgans of old, it's actually a completely new car. It's got a space age aluminium chassis allowing it to weigh around 1,000 kilograms, completely new drivetrain, and the all important BMW 2-litre 4-cylinder engine. And that got me thinking, what else has a BMW 2-litre 4-cylinder engine? It is of course the Mini Cooper John Cooper Works next to me. This is a little bit of a unique opportunity to compare two cars, the same gearbox, the same engine, but everything else is completely different. So the same engine in completely different wrapping. Let's see how they compare. So taking a look at the actual engine itself now, quite a unique bonnet style on the Morgan. Not many modern cars are like this, but the Morgan has it. There's the engine. What I didn't mention to you is the Mini is actually slightly detuned from the Morgan. So this is 260 horsepower and the Mini is around 230. It is of course the same engine that was in the Mini Clubman John Cooper Works that I drove a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully you saw that video. The Morgan is able to accelerate 0 to 60 in about 4.8 seconds, but the Mini, which weighs half a ton more, only does it in 6.3. But they do have a very similar top speed of around 150 miles an hour. But I think this is the car I'd rather do 150 in than this. So the wind noise, believe me, the wind noise on the motorway with this is something. So let's hop in the Morgan first of all and see how it drives and then compare the two. So first up is the Morgan Plus 4, named so because of the 4-cylinder twin turbo engine that I mentioned at the start of the video. It also has a bigger brother, the Plus 6, which features a 6-cylinder twin turbo engine. Obviously that's a whole different beast to this. But this is the nimble and nippy version, which I have to say is fantastic fun and has quite enough power. So from a usability point of view, it's got a whole new chassis made from aluminium, which allows the car to weigh around a ton, and it completely changes the way the car handles. It drives like a modern, sophisticated car, and along with that we've got the new BMW engine, the 8-speed gearbox, which I believe is exactly the same as the one found in the Mini. And then around me I've got a steering wheel that doesn't look like it would decapitate you in an accident. It feels a lot safer in here actually. It's got central locking, LED headlights. All of these things make it a really usable daily car. But then you take a step back and you remember it's a Morgan. It's got a kind of fiddly manual folding soft top roof. It's not so easy to get in and out of. The instrument clusters, etc., are a little bit quirky. For instance, when I wear my polarized sunglasses, which would not be an unusual thing to do in an open top car like this, especially on a lovely day like today, I cannot see the speedo at all because of the LCD screen and my polarized sunglasses. It just goes completely black, so I can't tell how fast I'm going and I can't tell what gear I'm in, which is just a small quirk, but a little thing that maybe could have been thought about in development. So that is the drawback. This car has kind of taken a step up in terms of usability, with the way it drives, with the way it performs to be an everyday car, but then it still has its little quirks, which would mean actually you cannot use a car like this every day unless you really loved it, and I wouldn't blame you if you did really love it. So at the moment I'm just in normal driving mode and it's quite smooth, it's quite quiet. Hopefully you can hear me over all the wind noise, but the engine isn't too aggressive, it's not too loud. But when you put it into Sport and then Sport Plus, the engine really comes alive. You get a fantastic whoosh from the turbos and the exhaust really burbles, which hopefully you'll hear in some clips now. Hard to really trust a car, no matter how good everything else is. But my impression so far, it's a lot of fun. So let's jump in the Mini and see how they compare. So we're behind the wheel now of the Mini Cooper JCW, the John Cooper Works. I won't bore you with any more stats than I already have. It's a similar idea to the Clubman John Cooper Works that I drove a few weeks ago. Obviously the difference being slightly less power and front wheel drive instead of all-wheel drive. So this is a proper hot hatch. It's even got a manual handbrake as opposed to the electronic handbrake. So I'm on quite an undulating road here and there's a lot of torque steer, but that is what you'd expect from 230 horsepower through brakes in the Mini than in the Morgan. As I mentioned earlier, the brakes are the one thing that could do with still being updated in the Morgan. What's it like from a usability point of view? The first thing you're struck by in the cabin is just how low the top of the windscreen is. When you're in the Morgan, you've got virtually infinite visibility, but in here it's quite reduced. Again, it's got the head-up display just like the Clubman. The layout and the quality is all very nice, but it's something again that doesn't just quite gel with what I'm used to. It's all a little bit too fiddly, a little bit too fancy for me. But as I say, the quality, the leathers, etc., how premium everything feels is still very nice in here. So there you go, guys. Those were my initial driving impressions of both the Plus 4 and the JCW. So which do I think makes the best use of the engine? In the Mini, it's a little bit more muted, it's a little bit emotionless, it's a great car, it handles fantastically, but I think there are other cars in its class which are a little bit better, maybe the likes of the Fiesta ST. The Morgan makes great use of the engine. It's really characterful, it makes fantastic noise, it always puts a smile on your face. People come up to you at the traffic lights and ask you what engine it's got in it because of the great noise that it makes. The pops and bangs and the burbles from the exhaust and the turbo bush as well, which you don't really get any of in the Mini. Maybe that's because of the sound deadening, etc. And I think part of it is due to emissions laws and things, which mean the Mini has to be a little bit more muted, a little bit more sedate. But what I haven't mentioned to you is that the Morgan is nearly 3 times the price of the Mini. The Morgan, this Morgan here is £65,000, whereas the Mini starts from about £23,000–25,000, and that's the difference. Which would you have? If you can afford it, this is a fantastic car for the weekend. I don't think you can drive this car every day. It's a lot more usable than old Morgans, but still there's little quirks like the roof and the infotainment or lack of infotainment and getting in and out of it, which mean this is not going to be a good daily car. And I've also got no idea what kind of fuel efficiency this car gets, but it doesn't seem to tell you anywhere. Whereas the Mini, it's a hot hatch, it does everything you want, so it's up to you really. I would take the Morgan. If you offered me the keys now, I would definitely take the Morgan home, but the £65,000 price tag, that's a large one to bite. So what's the conclusion then? To be honest, I think the Morgan's in its own class. Everybody loves it, it's so much fun. Everybody around town wants to know more about it. The Mini's okay. There are better hot hatches out there. It's great fun, but it's not a car you'd fall in love with, I think. Whereas the Morgan is the sort of thing you could probably own for years and years, even decades, and love forever. So I love the Morgan. I definitely want to go in it soon.